Welcome to the channel, everyone. Well, you have to wait no longer. Today is break-in day for the 64. So I apologize for the wind if it's creating too much noise, but it is going to be the least of our worries here in a little bit. The noise of this engine is definitely going to take over from the wind. But we're ready to go. I think as many checks as I can ever imagine, over and over and over. They're done. This is the end. It's time to run this thing up, get this thing hot, get everything hot. The only thing we can't really do, we can't put a load on the transmission, but we are going to be watching the temperature of that transmission. I'll have my heat gun. I can shoot down onto the bell housing itself, that area there for heat, and then I can also get down right onto the pan where the solenoids are, or the servos, sorry, are right there. So I'll be able to check that temperature as well. Hoping that the heater core doesn't leak, hoping that there's no leaks, hoping our water doesn't go milky, and other than that, we're just praying she don't burn to the ground and hope everything goes smooth. So there's not really any more prep for this thing except for to just get in here and do it. So first thing we're gonna do, better go get my heat gun here. There's always a skeptic somewheres that doesn't believe it's a cold start. All right, here we are. We're in Celsius. Just pulled out of my shop that's been closed up all night. So we are at 10 degrees Celsius on the manifolds. Water pump. You know what? It's even a little bit colder. 8.6 covers in there. There you go. 11.8. They're reflecting a little bit of the sun. I've been out here a bit. And transmission down there. Get the old laser on it. 11.4. So we're all about the same, between 10 and 12 degrees. We are cold here. Now, first thing I do before anything happens, we're not going to start it up just yet. First thing we're going to do is I got my little jerry can down here right by my tire, and it's right on that side, easy to grab and pull away if I have to. Water hose is there, extinguisher in the garage, everything's good to go. But first thing we're going to do is, because this has been sitting so long, sitting for a while, I'm just going to use a screwdriver and I'm going to jump the starter relay, get this engine turning. It's going to start to prime that pump again and get some oil back up to the top of this engine. At the same time, hopefully, we get some fuel pumping up there to the carburetor. So ignition is off, there's no start. We're just going to be turning it over. Oh, saw one little shot of fuel there. And there we go. Oh, look at that. All right. We're primed there, and that's 2 shots into the carburetor. Let's give her a third one, because 4 of them, because she's dry. I'm gonna keep this going in one continuous video for the most part to get it started. I got my ear mufflers going on here. 1 second. Ear mufflers are on me. So that should have primed that pump a little bit, hopefully. And hopefully we got oil pressure. And that should be it. We are tight. Good to go here. Oh boy. Oh, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm pretty excited. Okay, we have lights. We have power. Clock is running. In park, in neutral. Don't want to make that mistake. All right. Oil pressure gauge tweaked. We are good. Temperature is 0. Here we go, boys. Muffs on. Oh, give that another little pump. Oh yeah! oil pressure. Gotta let it warm up a little bit here. Get some temperature in that engine. We start bringing the RPM up. Checking every manifold, make sure I got even temperature on all holes. Really hope you can hear me. Just gonna let it run for about another 5 minutes or so, and then we're gonna get that RPM up and start getting that cam worked back in. All right, bring her up. Perfect. Woo! We're going on about 25 minutes now. I just brought the RPM down. The temperature's perfect. It is perfect right across. Everything is even on both sides of the engine basically for temperature, within a few degrees. Nothing wrong there. No leaks yet. And no leaks on the inside either, not dumping out of the heater core, and it's circulating good. You know what? I have to check my fan to see if my vacuum system's working. Oh yeah, good and hot. Now, let's go to the top, defrost. I can't tell if they're working. Let me see here. What do we got? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Ugh. Oh, yes. Holy moly. That was awesome. That was awesome. We got no leaks, no drips. We got nothing. That's good too. That is perfect. I don't know. I think I showed it on here. Temperature of the transmission, I think. What are we at now? This is just the fluid going through the torque converter. But we are... Where are we at here? Get down there. Come on. Where are you at? Where are you at? 98 degrees. Oh, I bumped it over to Fahrenheit. Make it easier for me to read there. 45. That is awesome. You know what? I think I might have bumped over to Fahrenheit there a few times. I have to keep an eye on that, but that is good. That is real good. So I'm pretty happy with that. I have a constant oil pressure around that 50-pound mark. Now that might drop a little bit once the engine breaks in, and also we got to get rid of this. I'll probably do one more run in on this thing. I'm gonna let it cool right down. Maybe tomorrow night I'll do another run in. I'll let it cool right down, then we're gonna get rid of that oil. get rid of that oil that we use for breaking this thing in, flush that out of there, and get its permanent oil put in. I am sure the radiator is low now that the thermostat is open and we're getting full circulation here. Got a little bit of pressure there, which is good. So I'll have to probably add more coolant to that, because if I don't, that'll start overheating. It'll start getting bubbles half pulling through and circulating around, and we don't want that. We want a nice continuous flow of fluid the whole time. Now, as for leaks, nothing anywhere I can see except for one little thing. That little tab right there. Let me see if we can get in here. The little tab sticking out from the valve cover, and it's only this one. It's just ever so slightly, see, not dripping at all. It's wet. I can tell it's wet with oil. I might need to just snug down the covers now that it's heated up, but in reality, that's good. I'm glad I can see that, because when this thing builds oil pressure and it starts going, if you remember, the oil gushes out of that rocker arm rod, like a lot. Enough that it pours out on the floor. There's no way I can really do it without the covers on. So with that being a little bit wet, I know all that oil is pouring in. It comes in from the rod, drops forward onto the tips of the push rods in that part of the rocker arm. The rest go to the back, run down into the head. There's portholes that runs down the side of the block, and as it goes down, it runs down all the way down, pools up on the bottom underneath the valley cover. That runs over into the push bottom of the push rods and onto the hydraulic lifters, which then dumps down onto the cam and then works its way back to the oil pan, which is just the way it needs to be. And everything seems to be working. Everything seems to be working great. Now as for in here, I was pretty hyped to see everything seems to be working. Gauge is working, lights still working. The fan controls all work, high speed and low speed. And as you can see in there, all my cans are moving. The vacuum cans are moving well. I really want to get this thing rolling, but you know what? We need brakes because there's no way for me to stop. So that's the next thing. The next thing for the old 64 is get the brakes done so we can get this thing rolling its own power. I don't even care. It's my field. I'll drive around my field all the way around in circles to test it out. And then you know what? Maybe a milk crate. There's a road right there. Side road. You never know. You never know. She is back into her home. Whew. Only one thing left to do. Oh, the 64 definitely deserves an ice cold Corona. Have I told you guys how much I like Corona? It is that season again where it's going to be garage beers. It's going to be 64 beers, roof beers, yard beers, every time beer, unless I'm at work. But it's going to be refreshing summer. Now, hey, there you guys are down there. I guess everything after this is kind of going to be a little anticlimactic. I really hope that these videos turned out good of this run in here. I'm going to be pretty disappointed if that sound doesn't pick up good. I know it cuts it out. The phone definitely is not the best, but hopefully you get the idea. That real low idle I had there at the end, that is nice. Once it got warmed up, it'll clean up definitely more once I get some exhaust, a little bit of back pressure on it. We'll get that nice sound coming out the back. But yeah, like I said, the next big step, there'll be little things. I'll be working on upholstery and stuff like that inside, but the next big thing is brakes. Once I got brakes, there is no reason why this thing can't go into gear and either drive with the driveway. Like I said, I'll go out the field. I don't know. We'll test it out. But that's all that stopped me from rolling this thing out of here under its own power is brakes. Now, I do need everything. The only thing I have is a pedal. Nothing else. That's the only thing that's left on this car is the brake pedal itself. So there's a lot of parts. God, it's been a long time since I've done spring brakes and drum brakes on a car. I got the tools everywhere, somewheres. Got all the little clip tools and the pliers to put that stuff all together. Have to dig it out and have to start looking. I'm not going high end here, but I decided I'm going to do all Raybestos parts. They've always treated me good in the past and worked well for my older cars. And you know what? It's definitely not the high end brakes, but it's going to work more than good enough for the old 64 here. Just disconnect that power. Nothing smoked. Warm, but not hot. So hopefully that was it. Now that's two things I didn't do. I never thought of. I never checked my battery to see if the alternator was charging, and I forgot to recheck the power or the transmission fluid. Now, like I said, it's topped up to how much the book says should be in there is in there. Now, my lines might be a little bigger, and my reservoir down the bottom might be a little bigger. You know, I don't know, but definitely something I need to check before I hit the road, at least anyway. But excuse me. I just kind of got caught up in the excitement, the sound, the roar, and just the fact that this thing is running in the car. And, you know, I know there's a lot of you guys out there that do this all the time, and this is probably pretty basic to you, but I feel pretty accomplished to the fact that I pulled this thing literally out of a forest. It was sitting for 40 years or so, and I completely stripped every single part of this car down my own bare hands and took every single piece apart, cleaned it, painted it, put it back together. And for me, I feel pretty proud of that fact. And like I said, I know there's guys that do this all the time, but this is my very first full build like this, and it makes a guy feel pretty good. I will admit, this would be the biggest heartbreak of my life if this came out as milk. I would just about die. Oh no, I can barely even see it still. But there she is, right at the full mark. Let's rub it off so we can see it here. Sorry, a little close, but I need this hand. Put that back in there. There we go. Just a little brown tinge to it. I would call that darn near perfect. There's the color of it there. Just a little, the regular brown tinge to it there. And we are right there, right at the full mark. So that's good. Now, this does hold a lot of oil up in the valve covers. So I will check this one more time. When we do the next run in, let it sit for 5 minutes or so, then we'll check it, because there will be quite a bit that sits on the tops. We want to make sure that we're not running that sump in the bottom dry. But yeah, that's her. She's good. So we'll get another liter of oil just in case. Gonna have to top up this radiator. And what else? Oh, still gotta check that. That's gonna be the next time though. And here you go. I know this is what all you guys come here for. But we have the 64 back out again. So today, two main things we're checking here. One, we got to see if the battery's charging. If it's not charging, we got to see where it's not charging from. Is the alternator working? Is it having a problem through the wiring? You know, where's it going? And we got to double check our transmission fluid to make sure we're topped up. Now, again, you always got to do this. Coming out of my garage, 10.6 on the manifolds. Everything is cold. Covering my bases before it even comes a problem. 8.4 degrees Celsius. 8.4. Sorry, I gotta make sure I'm clear on that. So, but we have done nothing. This is the way the car sat when I shut it off the last video. That is it. So we should get some earmuffs on here. We should be ready to roll. Oh, almost. There we go. Battery juice always works better when it's flowing. There we go. Now we got a light on. Bring the thunder. Not used to a carburetor yet. That'll be something I have to get used to doing. Good old fuel injection definitely makes life easier. Just like that. Beautiful. God, that sounds awesome. Wonder how much trouble if I'd get in running straight pipes just out. Right in here, we'll cut a hole, bring the pipes out right there. Wouldn't that be something? All right, well, there's absolutely nothing getting from the alternator to the battery. Alternator's cranking out the volts. It's up to almost 18 volts. That's what the regulator's supposed to do, is to take care of that to make sure it's good for the battery. But we are only running off a battery. We have nothing making it through the system. So I'm going to start this back up. I'm going to check the transmission fluid, get that out of the way as well. Double check my temperatures, make sure everything's going there. This is a little bit lower. I put a little more in. We'll see how it goes. But we got to figure out some wiring here, figure out what's going on. About a liter. Well, actually, you know what? That's to the bottom and it's cold. We'll give it a little more time to see if the heat brings it up. Just a hair over. Liter might have been a little too much. Have to keep an eye on that. just a hair below it. Man, is that ever smooth with that RPM? There we go. We got another successful run-in. That was that was just right at a half hour. Now I'm more working on the engine, but it's taking that RPM no problem. My temperature today is actually running a little bit lower than it was the first time I run in. I'm assuming just that little bit more, stopping that cavitation so you don't get those bubbles kind of going through the system as well. Still got nothing coming out the little spout here, so really I could put a little more in there. And kind of like a little text back and forth there, one of the commenters and one of the viewers about a catch can. You know what, it might not be that bad of an idea. Just like in a regular car, I guess a new age car. Don't know where I'd put it. I got a little bit of space here between the fan and the side, but I do need a hose anyway. I actually would like to have some squirt out. Like when it got hot, a little bit come out and then stop itself, right? So I know that it's where the level needs to be. Transmission fluid's good. Everything is good as usual, except battery. We got no charging. So what is going on there? Before I rip into this, just gonna make it real simple. Gonna double check my connection between my plug and the actual alternator connectors, and then we'll go from this side of the plug connected in to the alternator connectors, and then we'll go from the plug through the wiring here, following the schematic that I got off the manual, and see what's going on. Something is awry. Ooh, she's nice and hot, so it's doing its job. Power's making it through there, but yeah, this thing, you know what, this thing feels cooler than it was the other day. I don't know. Let's see what we can figure out. All right, I'm a little bit stumped. Been about 20 minutes on this. So I got my meter set up, and I'm going from the alternator. Plug's good, no problem with the plug. The colors for my pinout are perfect, and I'm going back and forth. And the oddest thing is that all connections here that I have marked work good. They all go to the alternator, and the biggest thing is from the alternator to my battery. So the positive lead from the alternator to my positive battery is, whoops, don't melt those. Oh no, I'm good. So the positive's connected to the battery. The alternator's grounded here. There's a ground here. It's a double field. I got the secondary field grounded to the case like it's supposed to first. It has to go to the case. The secondary negative, it can't just go, you know, to the frame. For some reason, it has to go from the stud on the alternator to the case of the alternator, then continues through, which is here. There's a brown, and then there's a white. White is a standard ground. Brown is that secondary field. The positive field makes the connection as well, because there's two fields on this one. So the positive field, the lower, which one is it here, is, where are we at here? Come on, we got... So it comes up here. Oh, sorry, right here. So the positive field here, which ends up being the brown or the dark brown wire, connects on the other side as well too. And the ohms are great. There's no loss in power. I don't know. This is pumping 18 volts out of here. Now it is a low amperage alternator because it's an old one. I don't know what it is. I think it's like 60 amps, 65 amps. They're not very big. I don't know if there's a possibility this battery is too big, because this thing's 1,000. Actually, this is 1,250 amps, cranking amps 1050 cold cranking amps, but I would still think I should see a jump in voltage. This is 12.2. I used it a couple times, and it should be close to 14 with that alternator running. I am 100% baffled. Just went over that wiring diagram again, as per the Chrysler manual. It's kind of a weird manual. It's Chrysler Newport 300 Imperial. They're all the same. Just kind of got to omit all the luxuries of the Imperial is all you really got to do. But every wire that is here, I have good continuity and good connection over to the relay, the starter relay, and the voltage regulator. The ballast resistor, we're good there. The ignition wire is connected. It's making the connection. It's using the starter. It's engaging the starter relay, which of course is starting the solenoid. It turns over. Safety switch is working. That goes into there. So there's not one wire. I know a lot of those other wires didn't have anything to do with this part, but I wanted to make sure there just wasn't something going on if I was like, arcing out or grounding out or something. But as best as I can read that manual, every single connection is as it should be. Well. Can you see this? You see the smoke coming out of there? I couldn't see the smoke outside, but why? Oh my goodness, what is going on here? This is new. Outside, I could not see that little stream of smoke coming out of there. But it's barely warm on the outside. The wires are cool. But whatever those little bars are underneath, they are smoking hot. Burning the paint and the oil right off them. And now I'm really confused because I've double, triple, and quadruple checked my wires. This is the correct wire for here. The dark blue is the correct wire for there. It says right on it, do not short any terminals to ground, which I definitely have not. No terminals are shorted to ground. The main lugs are to ground, and it actually says ground on this one, so it's on there. But what's going on? Why is this thing frying? This is brand new. I'm gonna open it up, because that's what you should do to everything that's brand new. Open it up. It is hot. Look, it's smoking. I don't know. Why is it burning up? It's almost like there's no ground, because that's what they told me. That's what I read in the book. I see it smoking again. I read in the book, if there's no ground, then these things get hot. But I don't know. Oh! There it is. What? Ah, damn. I must have arced this out. I must have grounded it out by mistake. 1 second, let me get in here. Can you see her? Right here. Look at that. The wire, it's burnt off. Darn it. So yes, it is definitely not grounded properly. That's one of the things I read, was if the voltage regulators aren't grounded strong enough, they will burn themselves up. And it is very specific on the side of this thing to absolutely do not short the terminals to ground. I must have hit them by mistake or something like that, or bumped it or something, and it burnt it right off. Oh God! I wonder if I can put a little wire around that. Let's pull this thing off. See if it's something I can possibly fix. All right, we have a wire back between that thing, just the way it was. So, time to put it back in the 64, and we're going to do it with none of the wires hooked up, no power hooked up, and we're going to make sure that we don't touch the side of this thing for any reason. And we'll flash her up in here real quick. No problem doing that. Start up real quick, and I'll check the voltage. I'm going to drop my alternator off today. and see what's make sure that's fine. That's, maybe I beat my head against the wall. Same thing with voltage regulator. Because last night I went through and I completely pulled the wiring harness apart again. And the thought behind this was, okay, there's no shorts in it. Is the manual, the colors on my manual, I have a full schematic, are they actually the correct colors going through the system everywhere they should be? Are they crossed or something? I don't know. Grasping at straws. But your video is short this morning, and this is where I'm at. So alternator's going out. For all the specs of it, it is right where it should be. 35 amps. It's just a low amperage alternator, right? They're small, so that should be good. But I want them to check the fields, check everything, make sure it is working as it should be. Hopefully there wasn't an issue here first and it damaged that. I don't know if that's a problem, or maybe that's good and that's damaged now, and all I need to do is replace that. Though you saw this inside, it's pretty simple. Power in, power out, the two coils. Yeah, it got hot, but it's still there. It didn't burn the coil off. But I'm gonna let somebody who actually knows what they're doing deal with that. So yes, hit the starter alternator place just barely. I had some things I had to take care of today, so I managed to get this right like they're closing the doors basically. But I was able to get in there and get this thing checked out. Alternator tests out perfect. This thing actually, he can spin it up fast enough so she pushes out 80 amps, though its optimal running is 40 and the low end is like whatever it was, 40 or 34 or 35 or something like that. But yes, alternator's working good. Fields are fine, pause is fine. It's grounded to the case, no problem. That's great. Perfect. This little guy, on the other hand, yeah, he's toast. And probably not from mine doing, from what he kind of told me, which is good. But give you a little lowdown on how I think what happened. And we were both kind of in agreement with it. Let you know how this happened. So as you remember, when I first broke in the car, she started fine. And I ran it for 40 minutes. And two things I didn't do. I didn't check my battery, and I didn't check my, the dipstick for the transmission. Now, it's actually good that I didn't check the battery, because all intents and purposes, he figures this was working at that time. Because I did run this for 40 minutes, and even when I checked the next day and ran it again, my battery was still over 12 volts. And so there's no way the battery would have stayed fully charged without this working. But there is obviously an internal issue with this, because he figures the reason why that's so black as well too is that the whole time this was running, inside that little red coil that you saw is a little core, and this thing was in meltdown mode and starting to liquefy itself. The first time I shut the car off and let it cool down, that was the end of this. That little liquefied coil solidified, caused a dead short inside of it. The first time I turned the ignition on, it blew that little wire that you saw on the side, and then I did run it for that short time after it again, which the battery's a little bit lower, because it was at originally, I think it was 12.7 or something like that, but I was down to 12.2. And then when I tried the fixes, of course, it blew again, and it just caused extra heat. So because it was shorted out inside. And I guess that was kind of not a common thing, but he was kind of, the way he put it, he goes, these either last you, 10 minutes, or they could last you 2 years. You never know. They're old, obsolete. So they build them cheap, which it definitely looks cheap. So I got something different. So I thought I'd open this again to show you. This is mechanical in nature. You have two exterior rods. This has got a coil over top of a ceramic core, and these heat up on both sides. Obviously, this one a little more than the other. And they help regulate the voltage. And in between them is like a set of points. I don't know if you can hear that, but this bounces back and forth like really fast. When you put a load on it, it's really giving her, and as the car idles down, it goes a little slower. So inside here, this is like a little electromagnet. So inside here, there's a little core, and that's where he figures it had a meltdown, it's shorted out, and it's done. It's no more. So that's mechanical style. I bought something fandangled. So I got a new one, which is, I guess they call it solid state. There are no moving parts in here. It is actually 2 little printed circuit boards, some resistors. It hooks up the absolute exact same. I have my field wire, of course. That'd be my ignition. That's my ground. Well, I guess I shouldn't say there's no way to short these out. I could purposely run a wire from one side to the other. But the best thing about this is this also has thermal protection inside of it. So if it does heat up, if I do arc it out by mistake and I ground it by mistake, all I have to do, shut the power off, let it sit for a second, it resets itself, and it's good to go. Now it is identical in size to the original, the holes and everything, even the type of ends that are on it, because my ignition end is a push-on connector and the one for the field is a bolt-on or a screw-on one that fits over an eyelet. And the distance between the two are all the same. Everything is absolutely identical. And this wasn't that bad. This is only $30. I was shocked. I was waiting. I was waiting for the $100 and something bill. But yeah, pleasantly surprised. So, in saying all that, alternator's perfect. I got a new regulator, new style regulator. We're going to hook it up exactly the way the book shows, exactly the way I had it before, and we should have a charging battery. All right, alternator back to where she was. All wires on. And we are connected back to where everything was, other than having that mess, but whatever. So here we are. We are now inside, closed garage. Perfect place to run up a car. But it's only going to be for a few seconds. Theoretically, this meter, she's only going to be quick. So, probably not a big deal. Let's get you in here a little further. You can see where we can put the meter so it doesn't vibrate off the car. Yeah, you can see that. Should be able to see that. And we are at, let's go here, 12.4, 12.47. Hopefully she's over that. It doesn't have to be, it's not going to be much. This is only going to be idling, so, but all it has to do is put something into this battery. Now, it's disconnected. Key switch is on, so I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to use the solenoid, and I'm hoping there is enough fuel in the carburetor and that to run this. Get my ear mufflers on here. The power on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's bring some thunder. God, that starts nice. That is awesome. That is unbelievable. So from an idle, she draws more power from the battery than the alternator puts in. Just a little tiny bit up. Yeah, she's just hitting that 13, what was it? I can't remember there. Almost 14 volts. Exactly what I want. Blows my mind how good this engine starts, how smooth it is. Because remember, everything is dead zero. Top dead center, dead zero timing, everything. There is no, it's not retarded or advanced, not a thing. It's just instant. Oh, I feel so good after the last few days. Now, my only downside to having all this running now is just my own stubbornness to actually take this in and get someone else to check it, because now I got to go back and clean this all up and make this all look nice again and put it back to where it was and make it look just nice and tidy and clean. But, oh, the relief. Now, I know this wiring like the palm of my hand now. For this whole car, that dash, everything. I can consider myself an expert for the million times that I checked it, trying to find a mistake and not find anything wrong. So I am glad that the wiring diagram I had was accurate, and taught myself a few things, how to read different things on there and get it working. The little box, it doesn't look that bad. I was worried about it looking too new, having it on there. And like one of the viewers mentioned before, because I was thinking about putting a box around this, I actually do kind of like the wires hanging out there. Once that gets cleaned up and they're in a nice straight line again, it kind of looks cool seeing the wires come out and connect. That's the way it was from factory. There was never ever a cover over there. It's just the way it was. It's the way they did it. You know what? Maybe we'll keep it that way. This, though, I do want to clean this up. That's a little much. That's a little much over there. But that does bring an end to the video. It is late. I got to get in the house. Still get a couple more things done, hang out with the missus, and just relax, knowing that I now have everything under here working good. Now, as for things under here working good, I need a windshield washer squirter motor and a windshield washer fluid bag, and I got to get my power steering line, the low pressure line. I get that going back, get a belt, get that hooked up. Then I think I can call under the hood done. But this is Paul, a happy boy. Loving y'all. Catch you again tomorrow.